Joining me now is Mississippi Congressman Benny Thompson, chair of the House Homeland Security Committee and leader of the Select Committee to investigate January 6th. Congressman Thompson, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show. I'm going to get your reaction to news that broke on ABC's This Week. Just moments ago, Speaker Pelosi announcing that Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger will be joining the committee. Your reaction to that?
Well, the congressman is a welcome addition to the committee. He's demonstrated that he can express his opinion despite what some of his Republican colleagues might want him not to express. So independent voice to this select committee is always welcome.
Should we plan on hearing about more Republicans joining the select committee chosen by Speaker Pelosi?
Well, as you know, there are 5 people who can be nominated from the Republican side. We now have 4 other vacancies left with the other individuals pulling out. I look forward to that. I would love to have a full complement. This January 6th riot impacted Republicans and Democrats also. It impacted our democracy. And the individuals who did it, our scope of the committee, we are tasked with looking to make sure that we find all the facts and circumstances around it and make sure it doesn't happen again. So I welcome the participation, but I think from the vantage point of the public, we have to get it right. Speaker Pelosi was absolutely correct in denying the other 2 members participation on this committee. They would have been a distraction. And we absolutely don't need that at this time.
In fact, Congressman Thompson, Chairman Thompson, the question I just asked you about more Republicans on your committee was asked of the Speaker. Let's have a listen to what she said.
Will you be appointing more Republicans to the committee like Congressman Adam Kinzinger?
That would be my plan. I wanted to appoint 3 of the members that Leader McCarthy suggested, but he withdrew their names. The 2 that I would not appoint are people who would jeopardize the integrity of the investigation. And there's no way I would tolerate their antics as we seek the truth.
You know, Chairman Thompson, one of the questions I think a lot of people are wondering is this. If you don't have Republicans who are on the select committee appointed by Republican leadership, are you worried about the questions of your perceived legitimacy of not only the hearings, but the conclusions you come out with?
Well, I think, thank you, Jonathan. It's a good question. Once you see how we conduct the investigation, the scope and the depth that we will participate in that investigation, I'm convinced the public will understand it. Now, there are some people, as you know, who will tell you that January 6th was the equivalent of a tour of the Capitol. So there are just some people that their minds are made up and it won't change. But I'm convinced that the right kind of work product that we produced will get a buy-in from the public. So I'm looking forward to it. As you know, we attempted early on to get a commission not made up of members of Congress, but made up of people from the general public. But Republican leadership shot that down. Leader McCarthy said he didn't want it after negotiating it. So I think it's fitting and proper. Exactly House Bill 503 that the House passed. Now we're in the business. And I want to say on July 27th will be 202 days after the January 6th riot. That's absolutely too long for Congress to take an oversight responsibility on looking into what's happening and guarantee that it never happens again. So we're where we need to be. I'm committed to it. The other members of the commission, we've not had one member be absent from any of our sessions. They take it seriously. And I think you will see after Tuesday's hearing, which we are trying to set the predicate to make sure that the rank and file individuals who saved this democracy I shudder to think if those rioters had succeeded in breaching the Capitol even more than they did, where our democracy would be today. So we want to honor those heroes who defended the Capitol on January 6th by hearing from their testimony.
You know, Chairman Thompson, I was going to play you audio of Donald Trump talking to my colleagues Carol Leonnig and Phil Rucker for their book, where he calls it was a large crowd, a loving crowd, and that the Capitol Police let them in. You were in the Capitol on January 6th. In the less than a minute that we have left, your recollections of that harrowing day.
It was a terrible day, Jonathan. First of all, those of us who didn't have security details didn't know what was going on because we were left in the building. The speaker and others had been escorted out. So for about an hour, we were left only to what we thought was going on, what our family and friends were calling us, telling us what was going on. We heard the shot of the lady who ultimately died trying to break in to hurt us. So it was a very harrowing experience. And only until we were allowed to leave did we see Capitol Police having individuals spread eagle on the floor right among us. We did not know of the terrible time. So we came very close to losing this democracy. And I want to make sure as chairman that we make sure that it never, ever happens again.
Congressman Benny Thompson, chair of the Select Committee on January 6th, thank you very much for coming back to the Sunday Show.